Okay, so this is Todd Atkins. I'm here with Christian and Kevin Natividad. And maybe I'll let you guys introduce yourselves because I don't do video stuff, so maybe they can tell your voices apart. So maybe like two of you could introduce yourselves.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Kevin Natividad. Call me Quicksand,
And this is Christian Natividad.
the Poi Pounder.
Poi Pounder. Call me Christian though.
Why you call him the Poi Pounder? I like that.
Now, do you eat a lot of poi or something? I never got into it when I was in Hawaii.
In Hawaii, only after weigh-ins. Back home, it was the only time. Got that from Coach Paul way back when.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So I first met these guys probably in 2010, I believe, and they were teenagers. I don't know how old you were, but let's talk about 8'6" and Paulino, and because he was kind of guy that got you into training, correct?
He was. I mean, well, at least for me, I don't know if you remember Steve Farmer's gym, or basically his house up in Pearl. I think it was Pearl City Industrial or something. Yeah, he had his own spot, and that's where I used to just go to just to spar. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't even go there to spar. I just went over there to get beat up. And Coach Paul started showing up there, Paul Ano. And I think from there, that's when I met him. I signed up for a tournament, and then he recognized me. And then, yeah, he coached me, even though I lost. Again, I didn't do anything before then, and he wanted to change that. So after that tournament, when he recognized me, he decided, he talked to my parents. I think I was 17 still, just about to turn 18. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to teach Kevin how to do jiu-jitsu, how to actually do jiu-jitsu. And I think that's when I met you, because I think you were up there.
Yeah, and how old were you, Christian? How much younger are you than Kevin?
Well, I didn't start at the same time. I think it was probably a year, right? Maybe after.
Couple months. I think you were just in high school, I think.
Yeah, I remember I was in 10th grade, so what was that, 14, maybe 15?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's when I started. And the only reason why I started was because Kevin was like, hey, you should try jiu-jitsu one day. And I was like, I don't know. And then one day I finally just showed up. And, I mean, when I showed up, I was the smallest guy there. I mean, they had Classic and Junior. Classic and Junior, and they were smaller than me, but they were only kids.
Yeah.
So there was a jump between me. I was 115 pounds. The next lightest person other than you was 160, 170.
No, it was Kanoa, and Kanoa was 130, and I was 140, almost 150.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was what?
But we would roll with all the big guys.
180. Everybody that we trained with were all prison guards or sheriffs or both. So I mean, it taught us good technique. We had to use good technique.
Yeah.
Christian's being nice too, because the only reason why he got into it was because I used to show off. Because we only trained 3 days a week, right? Back then.
Yeah.
I think 3 days a week, and the other days, literally. Yeah, the other days I used to we used to go to the park next to my house, and we'd invite a bunch of people, and I just show them jiu-jitsu that Paul was teaching us. And yeah, I used to just beat everybody up, and I beat Christian up to a point where he got fed up and decided to come in too. And now look at us.
Now let's talk about, you're from Eva Beach. For someone who's never been there, maybe describe, where you grew up or kind of what's unique about Eva Beach.
So Eva Beach is, well, we live in Arizona now, so it's really not that many in comparison. But Eva Beach was kind of where it was really hot, I don't know how to describe, sugarcane plantations.
I feel like if anyone were to ever visit Hawaii, they would never be like, oh shoot, I'm gonna go Eva Beach.
Yeah, it's gonna be. No.
You're never gonna hear anybody say that. I mean, it was a chill, small town. I mean, not really much over there, but.
Well, driving into it, going south into Eva Beach, it was pretty distinct. there was a right side of Eva that was like pretty nice. There was like a left side, which is, not so nice.
Yeah, just cross the street and go to two different vibes of like.
Yeah, they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh wow, this side's got green grass, and ooh.
The other side got dirt.
You're like,
So
"Ah,
Tua's from there. So what part of Eva Beach was Tua from? Like same part as you, or maybe the other part?
I don't know.
Wait, what was the question?
Tua? Where Tua's from?
He's from Eva, but do you know what part? Like, was he from kind of the other side, or?
To be honest, I don't even know. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of get back to
Yeah.
Paul. Like, for people that aren't familiar with Paul and know, Paul was I first discovered him at Grappling Unlimited, and they kind of had high hopes for him, but he had some different injuries that kind of plagued his fighting career. But they were really trying to push him into MMA, maybe back when I first met him in the late '90s. And maybe you guys could talk about what you learned from him, and maybe some of the other guys that were there.
I want to say, for me anyway, he was like my mentor and everything, like almost everything that he did, I just did, but like in a smaller version, like my whole grappling style and everything. I tried my best to copy everything I could, because I like look up to him, his aggressiveness, his strong passing, like, and how he's always constantly attacking submissions. Like, he's technical and he's a really big guy too. Like, how big would you say he is? Like,
I mean, he looks like he's big, but he's probably like 190.
190? No, he's not 190.
Huh?
Probably heavier, but he doesn't have much body fat. You're right. He's extremely muscular and powerful.
But yeah, he's like a yoked, at least 205, like, at least. Well, I don't know. Like, at least that's how he felt. He felt like he was like.
But you remember every
220.
time we'd see him, and he'd be like, "Dude, Coach Paul, how much you weigh?" And he's like, right now I'm light." And we're like, "No way, you're that light."
Yeah, I know. Well, no. Yeah, it's like a wrestler,
Yeah.
like, oh, how much do you weigh? Oh, I'm like 150, wrestlers 150 is like 160, 162 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a big guy that moved like a little guy. And I think that's why his style worked a lot for us. Like, and yeah, he was able to, because as soon as I started training with him, it was like, it was only a couple months until I had my first fight. And I think, yeah, you were there helping us get ready, or helping me get ready for it. We weren't even in an MMA gym. It was because of, you, do you remember Jared?
Yeah.
Jared, he had really long hair.
Yeah, Gonda. Jared Gonda.
Yeah, he got me that fight at Aloha Tower. And then I knew Coach Paul wasn't happy with it, but he was supporting me through it, trained, and basically helped me make my jiu-jitsu, like, use my takedowns to set up my strikes, and use my strikes to set up my takedowns. I don't know how to say about Coach Paul besides he was my mentor through more than half my training career, and I still like shout him out like to this day. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be like fighting.
And what about you, Christian? What do you feel like you took away from those days of training there?
I'd probably say just about the same. Like, I mean, me and Coach Paul, we have similar styles. Like it's not identical where like we pass exactly the same, this and that, but we have the same goals. Like when it comes to jiu-jitsu, it's takedown, pass, submit, and then like what Kevin said, it's the same thing. Always attacking when we're on the feet. So I mean, I'd say mostly what I took from him is style, just because like we're always attacking like how Coach Paul was.
Now, Kevin, you were already fighting then. How many fights did you have in Hawaii?
Before I left, I think it's either 8. No. I had 10 fights. as an amateur. I was 9-1, I think, as an amateur.
Now,
Yeah.
as you're competing and stuff in Hawaii, did you feel like, I mean, why did you guys end up going to Arizona? Did you not feel like you could maybe do what you wanted to do in Hawaii, or?
Oh, that actually goes. So
I was Christian.
yeah. So the way it worked. So I started wrestling while I was training with Coach Paul, and so I actually wanted to pursue wrestling. So I started wrestling in college, and I was wrestling at Southern Oregon University. They were ranked at the time I was there. They were ranked number 2 in the NAIA division, and then I wanted to wrestle D1, so I thought about ASU, and I transferred to ASU. And on my way transferring, I asked Kevin. I was like, "Hey, you want to be my roommate in Arizona?" And I mean, it didn't even take long for him to say yes. Like, so I sent him that text message. I was like, "You want to be my roommate?" And the next message, like 2 seconds later, was like, "Yes."
Shoots.
Yeah.
I was like, shoots. Yeah. Why not?
And then that was it. So like, the way he found Arizona Combat Sports, and it worked out perfectly because I was going to wrestle at ASU.
Yeah. So Arizona Combat Sports is like 5 minutes away from the gym, right? Or
ASU.
From ASU.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting thing. And I tell people this all the time. When we were gonna sorry, we got like 3 dogs in here. Sorry. Got a dogs podcast. When we first came to Arizona, my original plan was to drive over to Glendale. I think it's Glendale, right?
Yeah.
And train at the MMA lab. Because I didn't know any other gyms that were out here. I didn't realize Arizona was such a fight state, you know. Before I moved out to Arizona, literally like a week or two, no, it was about a week before I left. I was training with Haru for about a couple months up at HMC. And Haru told me, oh, you should go to Arizona Combat Sports, you know? And he was like, my students, they own that gym. And I was like, oh, really? You know, like, he told me about, I didn't even know Haru opened up AMC with Matt Hume too. Like at the time, like I just knew about HMC. I knew AMC, but I didn't know they were affiliated. Kind of makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, so we decided to go to Arizona Combat Sports. I looked it up and everything. Trevor and Todd Lally, they trained with Matt Hume up at AMC with Josh Barnett and all those guys. And even the jiu-jitsu instructor, it used to be Gustavo Dantas. Now it's Steve Rosenberg, both Novo União black belts. And, you know, I wanted to keep it within the lineage and everything. So I was like, perfect. And you remember how much I was about, you know, representing the Novo União Hawaii thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's why it worked perfect. Plus it was like we said, 5 minutes away from the school.
Yeah, they had a number of fighters, like I want to say right when Zuffa bought the company, or not long after, maybe not right when they bought it, but it didn't take long for them. They had, you know, CB Dalloway, Ryan Bader, this guy Aaron Simpson, who I think was an NCAA champion. Efren Escudero, I believe, was also at Arizona Combat Sports. He won the Ultimate Fighter. So they had like a number of guys just boom, 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 all in a row. And then they kind of didn't have anybody after a while. So I was always wondering what happened to them, because they were churning out guys over a short period of time, and then maybe they stopped for a while.
Well, like a lot of things was never like, a lot of people assume it is, but they think that a lot of the guys move out because of, you know, coaching or talent, or, you know, like, yeah, basically coaching issues, but it was never really that. So at least the story that I heard was Aaron Simpson opened up his own spot. Or was it Aaron Simpson?
I'm not too sure.
Well,
to be honest.
He opened up his own spot, and he decided to bring Bader and all those guys with him. And he was like, oh, Trevor, like, Todd, you guys can come coach with us over here at this gym. And Trevor's like, well, I opened up this gym. What am I supposed to do about it, you know? So it kind of like screwed him over a little bit. And, you know, I heard there was some like it was a little heated at first, but we're all good now because we still go. They opened Power MMA, and we still go over there and spar a lot too. Like we still train. We have a good relationship with the guys, but I think at first it was a little heated, as far as I know. But,
So at Arizona Combat Sports, was it more like a wrestling-oriented training, or compared to what you've been doing in Hawaii?
no, it's not. It was much more striking-oriented training.
Yeah, which is perfect for us because
Yeah.
I mean we were already ground guys.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into it, we needed stand up.
Yeah, like because Coach Paul taught us really good setups and stuff, but Trevor was I don't know, like he did a lot of Muay Thai in the past.
Yeah, and he pretty much, I'd say, like built our foundation. So it worked hand in hand with Coach Paul because those were setups, but Trevor helped us make that solid foundation for those setups to even work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Christian, did you continue wrestling, or did you just decide to go straight, kind of more into MMA?
There's a lot of things that went into it. So I was wrestling at ASU while Kevin was training at ACS, and pretty much halfway through the season, I was cutting weight to wrestle at 125, which I could definitely make the weight, but I wanted to wrestle at 133. So even though it's just 7 pounds, I mean, that 7 pounds is a ton of weight, like having to make that adjustment. And I also wanted to become an officer into the military. And it was crazy what they told me because the ROTC people said that I have to choose between either wrestling or being in the ROTC program. And I said, well, wrestling is going to do this for my career and being an officer is going to do that. Which one weighs more? And I chose the ROTC route. And so halfway through the season, I told Zeke Jones, I was like, hey, man, or hey, coach, there's things that I have to do, and now's the time to do it. And that's when I left the team. And
He was not happy.
Yeah. And so when I went to join the ROTC program, they're like, hey, you got to wait till pretty much next school year. And I was like, so what am I supposed to do for the next 6 months? And I mean, I at that time, I was still committed to joining the ROTC program. And while waiting, I started training at ECS. And by the time the next semester came and when I was going to join the ROTC program, my goals completely changed. I didn't want to become an officer in the military anymore, and I wanted to try to pursue something a little different.
So fighting, you mean?
Yeah, fighting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to unless you had some other plan in mind, but so Kevin, you were already fighting in LFA before he made his debut. So how did that kind of come about?
So I want to say, how did it come about? Honestly, like, actually, we know Mark Beery pretty well. Not to say that he does us favors or anything like crazy, like mismatches or anything. But Trevor and Sal used to train with Mark Beery up in, I think it was in Vegas with John Lewis and all those guys. And when the LFA came to Phoenix one time, or a couple, they come a lot, but there were a bunch of fighters, and I wasn't the first fighter from ACS to fight for the LFA. It was, I think, Matt Franku, Richard Palencia, and Manny Villarreal. Like, those three fought for the LFA, and since I talked to a bunch of those guys while we're there because I'm helping corner and stuff and warm up guys, and I talked to Mark a lot back there too, and I insisted that I wanted to get on the next one. I was like a brand new pro at the time. I think I was like 4-0 as a pro. I think I had like 4 fights within the first year, 4 or almost 5. My LFA debut didn't go too well. I got a little like heated and everything. too emotional in that fight. Went in there and wanted to bang with a guy who hits pretty hard. But stuff like that, like LFA. Yeah, or that's how we got into the LFA. And honestly, the LFA has actually helped me a lot in my career and helping me grow. Like, just because I know it's like a bigger show, bigger than any local show that we can get out here. And it's
number one feeder company or organization for the UFC, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think what am I now? Like 4-1 in the LFA?
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Christian, you had some amateur fights. Was that while he was fighting in LFA or?
Yeah, so I had my first amateur fight in 2016, and I kind of took a layoff somewhere in 2018 because I tore my ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Had to get surgery, had to do my recovery and all that good stuff. And I didn't rush my recovery at all. I took the entire 7 months to even step back onto the mat. And so, yeah, within that time frame from 2016 to 2020, my last amateur fight was in February. I had five amateur fights.
So, do you think that was good to go the amateur route and kind of not get paid, but to get the experience? Do you think that in hindsight that was the right way to go about it, or?
No, definitely. Because still like going into the cage, like as an amateur, you could make those mistakes. And same thing as a pro, like a lot of mistakes do happen. But when you go into the cage as a pro, you want to be as best fine-tuned as possible. And like those mistakes that you make when you're an amateur, it's fine when you make it as an amateur because once you turn pro, that amateur record, it starts all over. You start off at 0-0. It doesn't matter if you were 20-0 as an amateur or 1-20. When you go up to a pro, you're 0-0. So I just waited for Trevor to say, hey, let's turn you pro. I wouldn't mind if he told me 10 fights after or 10 fights in or 5 fights like how it was. I believe in what my coach believes.
There was a lot of influence with me, since I never really did any, especially formal striking training before I started fighting. I was literally just a couple months into doing just jiu-jitsu with you guys. And, I wanted to make sure he was ready and stuff, especially me. How much harder it is to watch someone compete, especially your brother versus I have, at least me anyway, I have a harder time watching him compete than myself compete in general.
100%.
Way more stressful.
It's because you're not in control of what's going on. You just have to watch and hope.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of talk about your debut, Christian. You fought a guy. He seemed maybe a little bit more jiu-jitsu oriented, kind of like a slender kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know much about him. Were you aware of anything who he was, or did they just say, "Oh, you're going to fight this guy," and that was it?
Yeah. So, when Trevor told me I'm fighting this guy, like every fighter, they're gonna look into who they're fighting. And so I searched him up, and he was undefeated as an amateur, and all of his wins were by submission, every single one. And I think all of them but one was in the first round. So I knew he was like a stud on the ground. And as a pro, I think he was 1-1, and even his pro win was by submission in the first round. So, I knew he was going to be good in that area. And so training with Trevor then, I feel like I'm well-rounded, whether it's on the ground or on the feet. Wherever I went, I felt like I'd be fine.
But Trevor didn't want it on the ground.
Yeah. Why not get a highlight reel,
Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor's he kind of had that jiu-jitsu build. If you go through many jiu-jitsu gyms, you either see guys that are really jacked or they're real long like him.
Yeah, right.
And then when I saw him fight, because I watched it, I was like, okay, yeah, this reminds me of a lot of guys I've trained with in my life,
Yeah.
Long. Yeah. He got that weird
interesting body type, probably rubber guard player. We didn't
Yeah.
really get to see, but
Yeah. I don't
or
think
a
he
Foot
really.
Locker.
I don't even really think he was trying to do much jiu-jitsu because I think he started doing jiu-jitsu after I dropped him once or twice, and like he was probably still rocking, just trying to hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went for an Imanari roll, and then I just debated.
If you watched your fights and win pro match, you should have known.
Yeah.
Christian
I mean, your
defeated-
boxing, you look like you have real powerful boxing. Is that kind of something you've been focusing on in training? Like,
Oh yeah. I
'cause
mean,
you look real polished and powerful. Every time you hit him, it seemed to hurt him.
Mhm.
I mean, it's funny because even back like before I started, so I started training in 10th grade jiu-jitsu, and back in like 8th grade, 7th grade, I used to like punch people on the arm just cause, and like they'd say like you punch hard, and
Not even just that.
yeah.
Like our neighbors back in Neva Beach
Oh,
used
yeah, I
to
remember.
call us up just to spar, or they say spar, but literally just beat us up.
Yeah.
And then for Christian, since he was too young for those guys to spar, they would get random guys from the neighborhood, and they used to just have Christian beat him up. Like,
Yeah,
he's so aggressive, and he just threw.
Yeah, I was like
Just punching.
4th grade or 5th grade, and they would call random people, and we would spar, or like it's pretty much fight because we didn't use any gloves, so we were like in the backyard and
Open
front
palm,
yard.
the Bosnian style.
Oh, the pancrase rules.
Yes, they were.
just make me go.
Yeah.
But going back, I mean, Trevor, he really really built our foundation with our stand up. So throwing those tight strikes and like minimal wind up to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not the punches, like how hard you throw the punch. It's like the punches that you don't see. So I think that's where having your meat and potatoes, having like a really strong foundation, Trevor really helped us because it was probably just the guy that I fought. He didn't see the punches that I was throwing.
Yeah, I think the right hand he didn't see for sure. You know, the one that put him down.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he saw it.
Yeah. And, I mean, Trevor too. He's a bit more of a. You did mention earlier that he did like a lot of Muay Thai and MMA and stuff, but he's definitely more of a boxing oriented striker. You know, especially how he teaches us. Just because he believes it works a little bit better for our striking style in MMA. When it's like stance and everything, you know, a little lower to the ground. Not that we don't kick, we kick a lot, especially nowadays. But
So after you won that fight, did he kind of tell you maybe how long he thought you might be till he put you back in there?
He told me soon. He said like LFA loved what they saw.
Mhm.
And I mean, they have 4 events coming up on the 21st, 28th, 4th, September 4th, and 11th. So that's in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And so,
we didn't take any damage, so we're ready to go again.
yeah. So, I mean, to be honest, I'm just waiting for a contract, or waiting for Trevor to tell me, hey, you got a fight coming up, and we're training like we have a fight. So,
Mhm.
if they call me next week, then I mean, we're already training. We'll be there.
Mhm.
And then Kevin, kind of talk about your fight because, I mean, that was kind of maybe like a title eliminator, perhaps. You think, or
So originally they said it was, but so there was a lot of things going on with that. Well, first of all, for the fight, I was telling everybody in the back, like Christian, like you guys were saying I was a little too quiet or something, right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, brought me back to like Hawaii days for some reason, but I was just all like sitting in the back, quiet, trying to think and stay calm, but I was like angry. I went out there and I fought a fight that I could have fought way better, but I didn't. But I mean, I got the W. By the second round, I think I found my range. Went to the body a lot, and then mixed it up. Went to the head instead, and I knocked him out. After that, they were definitely open to giving me a title shot. But the thing was, and we didn't really disclose this to anyone, but I got a call to the UFC on August 1st, and at the time, so I don't know. You saw the fight, right?
Yeah, I saw both of them.
So Trevor was more worried than I was. In that fight, I took a lot of calf kicks, and I was just toughing it out through. I mean, even to this day, or like right after the fight, we were training right away. Like it wasn't enough. It wasn't painful enough for me not to train, But I got called to the UFC August 1st, which wasn't too long after my fight. I was supposed to fight Chris Gutierrez, and I was getting messages from like MMA Junkie, UFC News Alert, Instagram emails, just like, oh, is this fight happening? Is this fight happening? And I was like, this is news to me. I need to find out myself. So I called Trevor, and Trevor already talked to Sean Shelby, and they were saying that, no, this isn't the right fight. The guy finished like 2 or 3 of his last 5 with calf kicks. And Trevor was worried that, like, he was worried about my leg injuries, so he just said not right now. So they were like, okay, well, within the next 2 to 6 weeks from this point, keep Kevin ready. So I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. Ice your leg and everything. To be honest, I was a little salty, but I understand his point. If Trevor wasn't there to talk to them, I probably would have took the fight, and fought a guy who throws a lot of calf kicks. But I don't know. You never know how things normally go, especially in fights.
Now, you said you could have fought better aside from taking the calf. Was that just primarily what you're talking about, is the fact that you took the kicks, or was there other things that you felt you could have done better in that fight?
Oh, there are a lot of things I could have did better. A lot of things that I do in sparring, I did not do in that fight. I didn't a lot of feints, I didn't have enough feints. I didn't do enough lateral movement. I stayed in one spot, waited for him too long. Didn't set up my shots as well. Like, honestly, I wasn't even trying to take him down. I just wanted to pin him against the fence with like a tie clinch and knee him in the body. But man, there's so many things I was like, I could have had this fight so much better. Disappointing, but it's fine, That's what people think I have. So I'm not too worried about it.
Now, so is LFA not going to give you any more fights since are you in limbo for the UFC now, or?
That's the thing, is that, so like we were saying, I guess I was going to be offered a title shot on the 11th. Or no, it was the 4th, I think. And then it's a little hesitant now. I think they set up a fight already. This wrestler guy and a karate guy fighting for the title, 135. I don't know too much in detail, but it sounds like it. I'm a little bit in limbo for the UFC. I mean, they've been signing LFA guys left and right, Like, I want to say almost everyone on the card that I fought that won, they got signed pretty much. And the last couple ones too, they all got signed. So I guess at this point, all I was told, just stay ready, Even if there's another LFA fight or whatever, CFFC, if anything's coming up, just be ready to take it.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jimmy Finch's trainer, Jimmy Fitch, Dale Perucci's the guy who trains him, and I know that they put him in the Contender Series right after he won that last fight.
Yeah. They were actually trying to I think Trevor was trying to have me in there. He wanted me to fight Adrian Yanez, I think. And he just got signed. Yeah,
they're signing a lot of guys, I think, probably because of, the COVID situation. They need extra people, too. So I saw Kai Kamaka just signed there, and just because he stayed in Vegas, I guess they said, well, if you're here, we'll go ahead and give you a fight,
He stayed in Vegas, and plus he, he's fighting another guy who's making his debut, LFA guy. So it's a nice matchup for Kai.
Yeah.
I think it's the first fight today.
Yeah. A couple hours actually.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the UFC card. Do you want to talk? Maybe let's talk about maybe the top 2 fights. Maybe not all of them, but maybe just the main 2, like Cormier and Stipe and O'Malley and Vera. What do you think of those 2 fights?
Those are gonna be exciting.
I know.
I'm stoked.
I'm excited to. Well, I'm a little torn on the main event. First of all, I want DC to end on a good note. You know, I like DC a lot. He already won the title once, and he's talking about retiring. And if I was going to retire, especially at his age and everything that he's accomplished, I would want to end. I would also want to retire as the heavyweight champion. You know, but I don't know if he's going to win. I kind of have Stipe on that one, especially if he doesn't try to wrestle him.
Yeah, I think Stipe's too big for him. You know, I know he knocked him out the first time, but Stipe's a big guy, man.
Yeah, way bigger. And he's not easy to wrestle either. I mean,
yeah, for sure. He's not a scrub as far as the wrestling goes. And I just feel like when you're giving up that much height, you know, it's like it's a height advantage for a reason. They call it advantage for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. He's able to put more leverage on Cormier. And it's a big guy to wrestle for 5 rounds, you know.
With everything. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, if there was anyone who could do it, it could probably be DC, but shoot, man. I just think stupid. Because the first one was like a clean elbow, right? He knocked him out early. The second
from the clinch, like as soon as they separated, he threw a strike. Yeah.
Yeah, like that elbow right there. And then the second time they fought, there was a lot more back and forth action, and Stipe slowly taking over, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to go similar to that unless DC wants to, I don't know, unless he's got a different game plan.
As soon as Stipe started punching him in the stomach, you know, the fight shifted. You know?
The body shots.
Yeah, DC was catching him like throughout the beginning of the fight until he started throwing those body shots, and then he just kept going to it. And I mean, at first I thought it wasn't much, and then I saw it starting to affect DC, and I was like, oh shoot. Yeah.
I think DC have to wrestle a little bit more.
Yeah.
But like you were saying,
I feel like DC is a guy who's accomplished a lot without being in ideal shape.
Yeah.
You know, just because he's super tough, he's wrestled for so long, but he's not in ideal shape. So, like when he started attacking his body, he couldn't take those punches, you know, because his body's not built to take the body shots.
I mean, John Jones is doing the same thing to him. A lot of liver shots, a lot of kicks to the body, and then he switched it up with instead of throwing that knee, he threw that high kick.
He reminds me of this. You had a running back named Marcus Dupree a long time ago, before you guys were probably alive even, but he was kind of like DC. He would be out of shape, you know, and they actually played Arizona State in a bowl game. This was a long time ago. You can watch on 30 for 30, but Marcus Dupree went home and he was with his family. I think it was around Thanksgiving or something. He probably gained like 20 pounds while he was home. So he came back and he was already like 240 pounds before he went home. You know, he was a big guy, even though he was a running back. So he's like almost 300 pounds. And they're playing against Arizona State, who I think they might have been like maybe 1 or 2 in rush defense that year. He ran for almost 300 yards, and they were having to pull him out of the game because he had no energy, you know. He was out of shape, you know, and that kind of reminds me of DC. He can do all these things because he's a great athlete. But even though he's probably doing it out of shape somewhat, you know, to some degree. I'm not going to say he's completely out of shape. I'm sure he trains super hard like any other fighter. But he's not like in the super shape.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That used to be my biggest fear. Just being out of shape, you know, for a fight.
Yeah, because that changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, because technique can't be there if you're tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like technique goes out of the window if you
Yeah,
don't have enough gas to throw punches, you know.
Yeah, and when you start taking those shots to the body, I just don't think his body is built that way to withstand someone hitting him in the stomach.
Especially a big guy like Stipe, like you were saying.
Well, I'm
And
sure
he's
like
gonna hit him there again. I mean, that's not really something you can train for it to try and block it, but he's gonna throw punches to your face and he's gonna come back to your body, and you know.
I think they're gonna do something very similar. At least Stipe's camp will.
What do you think about O'Malley and Vera? I mean, I watched some stuff. Vera looks really good as far as his ground technique, especially. You
I
know,
think it's Sean O'Malley's toughest fight in the UFC so far, and I mean, I'm surprised Cheeto is not in the top 15 because I think he's unranked.
Oh, he's
isn't he?
not?
Yeah, I
Really?
don't think he is.
Huh.
Yeah, which I'm surprised because I mean he's a stud, and like on the feet, I mean he's good, but I mean I feel like he's a lot more well-rounded fighter. Not saying his stand-up is better than Sean O'Malley, but I think he's a lot more well-rounded fighter than Sean O'Malley is. So that's why I'm excited to see it, especially because there's so much hype on Sean O'Malley right now.
Yeah.
It'll be a good fight to watch.
I actually want to fight Sean O'Malley. I don't know if they'll ever give me that.
you want to fight him already?
Yeah. Oh, I've been wanting to fight him for a long time. He fought on one of the LFAs that I asked to be on, or when I first asked to be on it.
Oh, that's right. He was in the LFA. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he fought our teammate on that show.
And he knocked him out, and it was like, the turning point for him. What
Yeah.
got him on the contenders, and then what got him to the UFC. Like, I was literally, so the way how the cage was set up, right? They have the audience on one side, and then they have the cage in the middle, and they have like a stage where they set up a couple more seats. I was sitting on that stage because I was helping warm up our teammate, and the whole MMA lab was in front of me, where Sean O'Malley trains at, and after Sean knocked him out, I literally stood up and was like, yo, let me fight him. Mark, let me fight him. And the whole MMA lab, like, just turned around, looked back at me, and they were just like, I didn't stutter. Let me fight him. Like, I was so ready to just fight him that day. Because, I don't know.
So he's training in Arizona as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of where he was training. I wasn't really paying attention to all that. I just kind of watched the fights, but so he's kind of right in your backyard. So that makes sense. I never really thought of that. I thought he was like, I knew he was from like Montana or something. But I thought maybe he was training. Since Dana White was like so behind him, so to speak, I thought maybe he was training in the Boston area or something, like where Dana White's from or something,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize he's training in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't know where he's from, but he's
from Montana.
Is he Montana?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, even back then, like in that fight, he was very athletic, a lot of flashy. It was a very impressive knockout, I want to say.
I think that's the hardest thing about him because he's so lengthy and he's awkward. Like
he's
especially
5'11".
Especially if you watch his like contender fight, like all of his strikes were off rhythm. Like just probing back and forth and throwing like weird punches from weird angles, and he throws flashy kicks with it. So it just makes it like hard to even prepare for a guy like that who's off rhythm and throws flashy, clean stuff like that. And he has pretty solid hands too.
Yeah, he's a great fighter. Yeah, that's kind of why I want to find him though. I don't know.
And he's tall for the weight, kind of like we're talking about Stipe. He's got a height and reach on a lot of guys he fights.
He's like 5'10", 5'11" or something, right?
Right. I mean, it's a big advantage. I mean, guys have to get close to him, and he doesn't have to get close to them. It's a big advantage.
Oh yeah, we talk about that all the time. We're like, oh man, I wish we could just play the long, lanky range game, especially the more we got into striking and everything. Just like, man, I wish I was tall. Like, fighting like Mike Tyson and talking about wanting to fight like Mike Tyson is one thing, but if we could fight like Lennox Lewis or something, like fight at a distance.
I'll be interested if Vera grabs him, maybe get close to the fence and see what happens there. But
Yeah.
to fight him at distance would be extremely difficult, just like you're talking about with Lennox Lewis, you know.
Mhm.
Most of his fights were fought at his distance because guys couldn't get close to him, close enough, you know. So
If he could wrestle him early, we'll see. Like, I want to see him try to take Sean to the second and third round, see how it goes. You know.
Yeah.
Like, cause I don't think Sean's he hardly ever gets past the first round. He knocks the guys out pretty
I
early.
think his first fight was. I think that's it, right?
His first fight.
Yeah, in
His
the UFC.
debut? What was his debut?
I think he won by decision though. Oh, he won 2 fights by decision. Remember he hurt his ankle?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh gosh, I remember that.
But
Yeah.
I feel like Cheeto's gonna like push him back and
Nobody's
put
tried
pressure.
to wrestle him though. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, I want to see like somebody try to wrestle him.
I think Vera will have to. I don't think he can. Not because he's not good enough technically, but it's just the reach.
Yeah.
You know, especially MMA guys. Boxers are used to getting inside on guys more.
Yeah.
You know, plus the rules in boxing are different. Guys can't throw knees on you or, you know, do different things when you're coming in. But in MMA, it's hard to get inside because
So much more weapons.
yeah, the kicks, the knees. It's not just the punches. It's way harder to get inside. And I don't know if Vera can fight him on the outside and have any chance of winning just because of the distance.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, Sean's really got O'Malley's really got his distance down, like, and you could tell.
Yeah.
Like, he's very technical striker. Yeah. I just want to see somebody test him on the ground. You know, I've heard things here and there about his jiu-jitsu and everything, but I want to see it. You know, like it could be real, could be fake. I only seen it in Sean's jiu-jitsu once at a Fight to Win Pro in it was. I think it was in Phoenix. I don't remember.
I think so.
He got knee barred. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see it.
He went up against a guy who was actually a blue belt at the time, but he was a footlocker. He actually fought one of our teammates for like an amateur title.
Mm-hmm.
And he popped my teammate's knee, but my teammate still beat him, even though he popped my teammate's knee. And he ended up going and fighting Sean O'Malley, or competing against Sean O'Malley at Fight to Win. And Sean tripped him with a nice little like I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it was kind of like a tie sweep looking thing. Like he tripped the guy over, and then as soon as it went to the ground, he rolled for Sean's leg and he got him with the knee bar, like almost instantly. And I was like, I didn't really get to see any of his jiu-jitsu, but dang, he got caught with that one. Maybe he's just not used to the foot locks or something. I know a lot of jiu-jitsu guys aren't. And then people talk about how his jiu-jitsu is not that good, and then some people say that his jiu-jitsu is really good. You know, he's like a purple belt now or something. I want to see it, and I hope we get to see a little bit of it this fight.
Yeah, I think that's Vera's strength. At least fighting O'Malley, that probably be his strength to try and fight that way. So I'm interested to see if he can, you know, O'Malley needs to prove that he can kind of deal with a guy who's maybe clinching, trying to take him down, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see for sure.
Definitely a good fight.
So, Kevin, since you're kind of on the verge of getting signed by them, who are some of the other guys you're looking at your weight that are there? I mean, I know you don't, you know, you probably would rather focus on whoever they give you, but.
I mean, it's hard now, just because, like, they're, you know, everybody in the UFC everybody that gets signed in the UFC is really tough. Or they have to be tough, you know. I honestly haven't been looking. I mean, besides who are the top guys, I know I was offered to fight this Russian guy a long time ago, short notice, but we didn't take that. I got offered to fight a couple times this year, honestly. But especially after this last fight, everything's been like more like, oh yeah, they definitely want Kevin on. But I can't remember that Russian guy's name, but he fought this guy Gustavo Lopez instead.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And there was another one. I know there's a guy that so Combate America is my third professional fight. I had 3 weeks to train for that fight, and they had me as the co-main event because I think the original co-main event was out. The guy I fought, his name was Erwin Rivera, and he got signed to the UFC pretty recently, and he just won. Like, it wasn't last week or 2 weeks ago. So I know Trevor then wouldn't mind me fighting him again because I already beat him once. And then there's another guy, or that guy Adrian Yanez, wouldn't mind me fighting him either. And shoot, there's a couple guys.
Yeah, Combate's Campbell and McLaren's event. You met Campbell McLaren?
I think, yes.
Yeah, Campbell was one of the guys that was originally behind the UFC to begin with. Like when Art Davie made, kind of created the UFC concept, he was dealing with Campbell and Bob Merowitz, SEG, Semaphore Entertainment. Those were the guys he had to deal with and go to New York and try to convince them that this was something worth even considering. They were kind of the money behind the UFC, Campbell and Art Davie.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Campbell was, he could argue that he was just as instrumental in creating the UFC as Art Davie was, all three of those guys.
I didn't even know that. It's kind of cool to know.
Yeah.
I'm glad I fought for Combate for one thing, especially now I got something else I could say about it.
So, Christian, we talk about Kevin, he's kind of, on the verge of the UFC. How many fights do you think you want to do? I mean, I know it's kind of a crazy question to ask as far as, or how long would you want to wait to get into a bigger promotion? Or are you just kind of content doing what you're doing for now?
I guess you could say that because I'm not in a rush to be into the UFC. I mean, all I know is that when I'm in the UFC, I want to be ready for everything. So, I don't want to be thrown into a big show, be excited that I'm in the UFC and, get smashed. So, to be honest, taking it one fight at a time, just taking my time. And, whenever that opportunity comes, then,
Now, have you looked at any of the other promotions? Like, do you pay attention to one or
yeah.
any of these other shows?
Yeah, one is definitely a big option for me. I trained at Evolve for 3 weeks and they loved me there. And at the time I was still an amateur, and the coach over there, forgot his name, but he was talking to me, and by the way he was talking to me, he was like giving me what I took it as a sign, like he wants me to fight for Evolve. And since Evolve, the owner of Evolve owns one championship, I kind of put everything together, and thinking that they would want for me to fight for one, representing Evolve. But he that's nothing that he said. That's just what I took it as. And that'd be an awesome opportunity. And if it does happen, then I'll be happy with that, or I'll be happy with the UFC. Whichever opportunity comes first, or whichever one sounds better, then I won't complain.
Now, how'd you end up training at Evolve? When did you end up there?
So, my dad, mom, and sister, for my dad's job, he was traveling all over the place. So, one year they're over at Singapore, and they wanted me to come visit, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll come visit. And figured out that Evolve was there, and I know who Angela Lee is. I knew who she was, so I messaged her on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be in Singapore for 3 weeks. You want to help me train at Evolve? And she was like, oh, that's perfect timing because I'm going to be there tomorrow. So, yeah, so I met up with Angela, and I started training at Evolve. So I couldn't hop into the fighters class right away. I had to do the basic Muay Thai, the basic Jiu-Jitsu, and I stayed there for pretty much the entire day because I was having so much fun, so many different bodies to roll with, different looks. And after the first or second day, they were like, hey, come do the fighters class. So I was training with all the pros, and
they were scouting you the first day for sure.
Yeah, and it was awesome to be able to train with like a bunch of Lumpini champs, jiu-jitsu
champions.
yeah, jiu-jitsu world champions, one championship fighters. Misha Tate was there with her boyfriend at the time, and I mean it was just crazy to be training with all of them. And what was crazy was they wanted me to teach wrestling to them, and so there were days where I like offered like taught like what I would do in this position against the cage, my techniques to this and that, and they absolutely loved me there. And so by the time I was leaving, I remember I was saying bye. They were saying like, hey, anytime you want to come train here, just let us know and you can come train. I mean that was 3 years ago, so it's been a while.
I missed out on that opportunity so bad.
Yeah,
Our parents wanted us to both go up and visit and everything, and I was like, I'm gonna stay here because I'm gonna work and I wanna keep training just in case to get a fight that came up. And I didn't get a fight that came up, by the way. And Christian went to go train at Evolve and everything, and I asked him because I was just like, because he was telling me about all these Muay Thai fighters that he's been training, like doing a lot of Muay Thai with, and I'm like, oh, you know who I'm a big fan of, speaking of which? Sam A. And then Christian's like, oh, this guy? And then he sends me a picture. I'm like, no way.
yeah.
No way.
Sam A, like that's that super stud Muay Thai guy. He's the first one I sparred in the fighters class.
God. I'm so sick.
And it was crazy because like you see him throw like 50 kicks in like 20 seconds or something like that. And I mean his kicks on the pads, like they look fast, but in person, so much quicker than it does like in video.
I bet.
Yeah, every time I threw a jab, he'd kick me, and I was like, "What the heck, man?" And yeah, there's just so many good people to train there. We Kurong, that was one of the guys. He was the one championship strawweight champ, and Alex Silva, he was another one championship strawweight. Though Alex Silva, he was at my time there. He was my main training partner. Him and Bruno Pucci, so that's Angela's husband now.
Yeah, so as a wrestler, when you were training at Arizona State, like, did you gravitate more to like freestyle techniques or Greco techniques? What do you think were you picked up better?
So I was originally there for folk style collegiate wrestling, but it was crazy because Zeke Jones, Lee Pritz, he's the assistant coach. Every time after practice, they're like, hey, go do RTC, which is Regional Training Center, which is all freestyle. So they made me stay an extra hour and do freestyle. And so
Funny, they had plans for you.
yeah, so like I mean, to be honest, I was mainly focusing on folk style wrestling rather than freestyle. But it's a little different compared to MMA. Like, I mean, wrestling, there are wrestling techniques that you can do in MMA, but you have to think about the cage. And I'd say folk style collegiate wrestling works more towards MMA because in MMA, you're not trying to spin them like how you do when you have a gut wrench or a lace. You're actually trying to hold them down in secure position like how it is in folk style.
Yes. So I was talking to guy Raphael on my last show. I don't know if you listened to that, but he was the guy I met in Japan. He was he wrestled at Lawson Junior College. And we were kind of talking about some of these Russian Caucasus wrestlers and why they're able to control guys in the cage maybe better than some of these American fighters who kind of take a guy down, they get up, take him down. They take him down once, and that's, they don't get up again. Why do you guys think that is?
That's something I want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. Those Russian guys are. I mean,
Well, like my friend Raphael said, okay, they've been doing Sambo as well, and Sambo's kind of like folk style with the jacket on, so they kind of have these controlling aspects from Sambo and submissions from Sambo. So when they take a guy down, they're more used to kind of controlling him anyway. Although in Sambo, it's a little bit different because I think basically after maybe 3 or 4 seconds, they're going to stand you up if something doesn't happen. So there's a lot more takedowns in the match. The guys are real conditioned because they've taken guys down multiple times over and over and over again. but that's kind of what he was saying. He thinks it was.
Strength difference. Like all the Russians just seem like they look so strong, and it could be from I don't know how they train.
I think they're great at letting guys up to like 4 points and then breaking them back down again.
Yeah,
It's almost like they let them get up a little bit, like halfway, so they can put them back down on their stomach again or on their back again, just to fatigue them.
yeah, get the guys tired. Like you can definitely tell the fatigue difference, or I mean not fatigue difference, but it looks like they've been doing it their whole life, which they probably have been. But like, you go with someone who's been wrestling their entire life, especially at that style, and then you go fight someone who just started doing it from, being a kickboxer your whole life. Like, especially the ability to be able to take someone down at will, or like just to control where the fight goes. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's a good question, actually, like that I want to look into myself. Why does it seem like the Russians wrestling works so well? I'm going to have to look into that myself.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of American fighters. I mean, Henry Cejudo's been wrestling his whole life, but you get a takedown, the guy gets up. Get a takedown, the guy gets up. And a lot of the American wrestlers are like that. But when you watch some of these guys from like Dagestan, Chechnya, guys like Khabib, Khamzat, these guys take people down and they may get up to their knees, or hands and knees on the mat, and they just put them right back down their face again.
That wrist ride technique's the only thing we've all picked up. Like, we definitely use that a lot. Bader has one that he does, apparently. It's not too different, but from what Khabib does. But we all kind of adapted that. What was the other guy? There's another wrestler. I think he just fought. He fought within like 10 days.
Oh, Chimaev, Khamzat. That's who I talk. He's from Chechnya, but kind of right next to Dagestan.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that guy's an animal.
Yeah, but kind of same thing. He'll let guys, they'll get up to their hands and knees, but that's as far as they're going. It's almost like he'll let them get there just so he can smash their face back down into the mat again. Kind of as a fatiguing technique.
It's the Russian beard.
Like they take their body off of the guy to let him come up a little bit, to give him some space, and then just pull their arms out from under him and push him back down again. It's
like they have so much leverage to strike too. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the other thing about Sambo is you can strike. So it's kind of like folk style with strike and submission. So I think maybe they have some preparation that's different from doing both of those.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean,
because no one's ever going to let someone punch in folk style in America. America's just too, and they're not ready for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
could be the beard.
It could be the beard too. Well, that's the other thing, I mean, I live in Saudi Arabia for about 8 years, and Muslims, they're all Muslims, the Dagestanis, Chechens, Muslims they aren't into like a lot of the drinking and partying and stuff like that's kind of not their thing, you know what I mean, as far as the religion goes. So I think they have some good discipline aspects where, they fight in these cities like Vegas or place like that. They're not going to pray to some of those things. They stay focused pretty well. So
everything could be a huge difference in all of that too.
Yeah. So as we're kind of winding down the interview, I always like to let, kind of people I'm talking to, like if there's something that you feel like maybe where people can follow you or something you want to leave this, kind of interview with, tell people about.
Well, I mean, I've been trying to do a lot better with all of my social media platforms. I just downloaded well, it's kind of sad because I just downloaded a TikTok, which I think might be banned pretty soon.
But Chinese are going to spy on you now.
I know, right? They probably have been. It's okay. Yeah. I don't post anything really.
It's funny. I was talking to Andy Wang on that note. When I talked to Andy Wang and he was on Skype with me, he said, they may just cut this interview off. Like if I say something and they're listening, they might just end our Skype call just to let you know, which is pretty crazy.
I mean, yeah, maybe I won't mention my TikTok thing. No, but Instagram, I think my name was K Natividad or knatividad.inc, and I think I don't
Yeah.
know. Facebook is like Kevin Quicksand Natividad, and I don't remember what my TikTok is, honestly. It's like Kevin Natividad 2, I think is what it was, because apparently there already was one. Real salty. No, I'm not salty.
Yeah, mine is just pretty much Instagram, just Christian Natividad. And I mean, all my fight news, like daily updates are all going to be on there. Especially like after my last fight, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people that are looking forward to seeing my next fight, especially if they have it within the next 2 to 4 weeks at the LFA.
Still trending.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we got Twitter too. That's where it's really trending.
yeah.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to shout out my Twitter. It's like Natividad_Kevin. Oh crap! I need to get on Twitter more often.
I don't know what my Twitter is.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the fans are now, man.
Yeah, Twitter. I know Instagram too, but we got to be better about. We're trying really hard to be good about social media, but
It's like a job, man.
I know.
It's a job.
We just want to fight.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
yeah.
if you're successful fighting, people are going to find you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to do this, and hopefully I can catch up with you guys again, maybe when you have some more fights or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's been a while.
It's been a long 10 years.
Yeah, it's been 10 years since I've seen your faces, that's for sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's been it was actually pretty fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like I don't put stuff on YouTube. I have a YouTube. I mostly just put clips because my camera's old, as you can see. I need to get a better camera. But if y'all have a YouTube, you could put this on there. Maybe I could send it to you. But
Send it to us.
Yeah, we can do that. Well, I don't really have. Oh, and I do have a YouTube account, but same thing. That's you think I don't use Twitter? Like, my YouTube even worse.
Yeah.
maybe I'll put it up there. People can see I interviewed that HPD officer and he put it up there. So his crystal clear camera's next to my blurry, terrible camera, because I had this computer when I was in college when I met you guys. And I was like, I don't need to buy a new computer. This works just fine, but the camera sucks.
I think we got it. Well, I'm using my MacBook right now.
Yeah, that's what everyone tells me. They have Mac. But the newer computers have good cameras in them.
They do.
It's just this one sucks.
As long as it works, that's really what matters,
Yeah. But, so, yeah, I'll definitely send, if you want the video part. And, yeah, man, look forward to talking to you guys again. And I'll put this out everywhere so people can catch up with you.
Sounds good, man.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
Thank
let
you.
us know. This is fun. More than happy to do it again.
All right, man. Well, take care and see you around.
All
All
right,
right, man. You too. Take it easy.
Appreciate it. Aloha.